I'm loving seeing this, and it's about time, my friend, to dive into the World Masters Season 3 final. This is the first game, BIGKUKURUZINA on Blue Coin TLG Cyberz. My name is Flake. I am joined by the biggest brain partner I could ever hope for, Shinmiri. I'm so glad to be here with you, buddy. This is it, but it's all coming down to this.
It is great to be here with you, Flake. And speaking of variety, speaking of third and fourth decks, this is what we're going to get for game number 1. It is Keltullus on blue versus Alzur's Precision Strike on red. Have not seen this matchup yet this tournament, so it is going to be a fresh matchup. We've got a lot of control tools and movement for Cyberz being reactive from the red coin position, and BIGKUKURUZINA with the engines and threats on blue coin.
And Aradin coming through the portal, ready to rock and roll over here. Big KK does have the Ownermancy ready to rock and roll as well. Siri online. Again, no access to, or no heat wave in Cyber's hand. Nothing to really worry about here, but the defender's the first order of business. And the problem here is that the follow-up to this is going to require a little bit of finesse, because the way to move this right now would be the making a bomb, but you can't move it yet, because then you're just going to drop the Siri behind the defender anyways. So you're kind of allotted a free pass here to do what you got to do. But in terms of actually addressing that Siri, when left to her own devices, essentially flips the coin on you, right? It gives you red coin plus a stratagem if it pops off with the card draw. So that has to be a worry here.
Yeah, and BIGKUKU is going to protect the Siri with the stratagem. He's running tactical advantage, so it's an extra 5-point boost, not the usual 4 points plus the veil that we see Crystal Skull often in Carapace. But now Cyberz has to think, he can get past his defender. He has the making a bomb. It'll do 4 damage, which will just get wasted into the 4 armor. So it'll be very low tempo play. It will get the Madoc out of his deck, but it'll open up the defender from protecting the Siri dash. And does he have a real follow-up, though? I guess he does have the Oniromancy in his hand. So if he wants to answer the Siri dash, he could go with the making a bomb here, and that is what he's going to do after some deliberation.
Yeah, the 4 armor of that Cave Troll really just tanking the damage from the making a bomb, but that is just not part of the whole picture here. The important part is the fact that they're no longer side by side. That Siri is no longer holding hands with the Cave Troll, and the Madoc is now on the board for thinning as well. So with the constant clicking of the Madoc and the the bomb assault of Cyberz here, he's gonna have to be a little bit crafty here in terms of how he wants to deal with the Siri. There's no way to really do it with bronze cards here. It's going to be a pretty costly one, but I think that it's a necessary take that you have to do here, because you cannot let that Siri draw a card, have all the points, and then be at the mercy of Keltullus, where they'll just potentially bleed you out of all of these nastiness, bleed you out of your Alzur win condition, and and then just laugh at you in round 3 when it Witches Sabbaths you into some really nasty stuff.
Right, and you only have 1 heat wave though, so BIGKUKU's happy just to leave the Siri dash at 10 power, knowing that okay, your full leader is representing 5 damage, and the most you can do outside of your leader right now is 4 from a bomb, from a Dimeridian bomb. You don't even have Madoc on the right row to potentially get some value from him. So yeah, I'm safe at 10. I don't need to go higher. If you want a heat wave at 10, that's your only heat wave, and then most of my other stuff will stick.
Yeah, that's the scary part about it, is the fact that this deck plays very concise. The deck plays, very few units, but the units do pack a punch. They get fairly tall. So big removal pieces like Heat Wave, or if you're playing against, let's say, Nilfgaard, something like Yennefer's Invocation, are immensely important. These are exceptionally important cards to behold. Their value on those just skyrockets, because it's not just points that they're representing, it's the fact that these are cards that have severe implications for the late game, and in this case that Siri at 10 points still has a timer ticking, but I mean, this is a situation where Cyberz would probably give up a gourd, give up other, a mushy truffle for like 3 heat waves. Like, that's basically what he needs here in order to navigate this type of list.
Yeah, but I mean, heat wave's a great answer, and making a bombs are also good answers. One of them have been used already. If BIGKUKURUZINA was going to commit a row lock unit here, like a Keltullus or a Nithrol, he would have to play them in the melee row, and they wouldn't have the protection of the defender anymore. So it's kind of a difficult, it's kind of an interesting decision that Kukuruzina decided to open the defender on the melee row, which ends up being in the range row after movement. Maybe I would have liked to see him play the defender on the range row to start, so that it gets moved to the melee row afterwards, and then still provides protection for Keltullus and Nithrol.
Right, and that's a very good point. Again, you're kind of setting it up for, you're anticipating the response in that case, and you're basically sacrificing the Siri, but then your Cave Troll will be in position to protect against something like Keltullus, and then after that, the Heat Wave's gone, the double movements might be gone. Let's say they want to move the Cave Troll again with another making a bomb, then sure, but then your Keltullus is in the front row without much to worry about. So at this rate, you know, Big KK here is in the lead. Defender's still up, but there's a lot of pieces missing here because you got to start, you know, contemplating how deep into this round you want to go, and I think that you just go for it. And there's a nice lemons of the first wheel of Owneromancy, and he's opting in this case. I wonder if he killed the Owneromancy or the Madoc. I would suspect that he
guessed the Madoc, because the Madoc can come back right away if he plays him another bomb, and then Owneromancy, he can take his time to banish it next turn.
Right, if it survives, because you can always kill that lemons with, I suppose, a follow-up here. I mean, he could always protect it, but I was suspecting that if that Mushy Truffle wasn't the option here, he could have hit the bomb and killed the lemons. Because keep in mind, Shinmari, that Owneromancy is also one of the triggering factors of getting your Alzur with all the orbs lined up. So you can get your Alzur out of the deck and then have all 3 orbs pop off in one foul swoop, and you're not susceptible to a removal piece.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. The Owneromancy is a huge part of Cyber's combo in his Alzur deck. But now, like, it is very expensive for Cyberz to use Leader and another bomb, for example, to answer a Lemons, when there are just so many threats like Piggy, Witch Apprentice being 2 points a turn, the Beast coming back from the Witch's Sabbath. So Cyberz maybe just thinking there's going to be bigger threats than this. I need to save my Leader, and yeah, I lose my own Owneromancy. It's not ideal, but and here we go. Keltullus coming out from the Huarahua, and Cyberz's Simless getting milled by this pony. That is a tough one for Cyberz, because Simless is such a huge part of the strategy, and now there's not going to be like a double orb, double bound for Harvest later down the road.
Oh, he's going to lose one of those units, though. Keltullus is going to go Scorched Earth on his own board. Who's it going to be? Adios, Lemons! The Horsey still survives here. I guess the Keltullus is kind of favoring you back the horse that brought you to the race in this case. So adios, Xavier. And yeah.
It's a self-scorch for BIGKUKURUZINA, but I think the amount of carryover that you get from milling the Simless is worth it.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And now with that Simless gone, you could kind of use that Orb of Insight that you've been kind of hanging on to on the Seer that's been sticking around. And this is also a good play because it does not establish more units on the board. So BIGKUKURUZINA now has to think, okay, well, now I got to play a non-unit, and really your options are relatively limited. You have the Pact, which is great, and you also have the Heat Wave. So you're in the driver's seat here. You're on blue coin. You have to make the decisions here. So Big KK, has to kind of think about how deep into this round he wants to go.
Yeah, so 2 orbs set up now. There's the Truffle that will get the orbs from 2 and 3 counter to 1 and 2 counter, and then the Alzur is going to be ready to go. So, like, if Big Cuckoo stays in this round too long, he might end up getting in trouble because he's got that Witch's Sabbath that is basically unplayable in his hand right now. But at the same time, if he passes, Cyberz is going to have the orb set up ready with the Truffle on the board. So it's kind of a difficult situation either way for BIGKUKURUZINA, I think.
I like this pass. I think that this pass is fine because it's going to get dangerous after this. It's hard to just pass on Precision Strike. You know, like, look at the cards he has in hand. There's some of them are pretty bad. I mean, you're not going to give up your Gourd, you're not going to give up the Sentinel, and I don't think that you're giving up the Alzur. So things just kind of worked out here.
Yeah, it was
you get to keep the carryover, and the 2 vitality puts you over the top.
exactly the 2 vitality, just enough to get out of this round with a really cheap Dimeridium Bomb, because otherwise you're playing Brick or Win Condition. So nicely calculated by Cyberz. Now he's in control of the round, and I think we maybe expect to see a push here, because some of the big threats like Defender Kelly are gone for the first time. If you push here, you might force out that Witch's Sabbath, and then there's very few win conditions left for round 3.
Now, it's tough to look at here, because keep in mind, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that the next spell that gets played will trigger the two pack of those orbs.
Yes,
so,
the Dimeridium Bomb was one of them, and then the next spell, exactly, so now they're on 1 and 2 counter.
So you need bodies to make this happen. And the one way to get bodies, frankly, is just to go ahead and use your leader ability and get the clutch death blow to make it happen. But you got to go first here. So Cyberz is probably going to go ahead and commit that Sorceress. But what happens if the Sorceress dies? There's a Time Bomb in Big KK's hand. There's a Parasite in his hand. There's a Heat Wave in his hand. So it's a tough situation here for Cyberz to digest, because he needs a body on the board to make this pay off. And it seems like everything that gets played is going to die, unless he uses the Mushy Truffle charge on just one unit and then pops off with the Alzer. But that seems a little...
I think that's what Cyberz is going to have to do here. Big Cuckoo just plays reactively here, doesn't put any targets on his own board, so nothing for Cyberz to hit with his leader to even get the 1 unit from the Brocklon Sentinel. So yeah, we're going to see a Mushy Truffle, Golden Froth, a single Alzer, and that's going to pop off the 2 orbs. We get a 4 strength Blightmaker and a 5 Self Eater. Okay, I mean, you can't get any relics as Scoia'tael, right? So just a 4 and a 5, probably average to below average, but and one more charge left on the Alzer for that orb in his hand.
So I believe that what Kukuruzina has to be aware of here is that if he does play with Witch's Sabbath, wouldn't that bring back the Alzer?
Yeah, unless it gets heat waved.
So that's what I'm saying. So he has to be aware of the fact that he could potentially get burned with future spells. You know, if certain spells just kind of randomly appear, like there's that other Orb of Insight, he might get a second wheel of that Alzer. That Alzer needs to go if he wants to be sure that the Witch's Sabbath won't bite you in the ass, you know, coming back. So there's the Heat Wave popped off with an Alzer charge still left. So that Alzer is now completely null and void. It is a non-factor, but he's still down by a few points.
He's gonna split the relic.
That's interesting, because you lose a point off that.
You lose a point off that. You're never playing another relic, but it does give him more bodies, so that if Keltullus were to come back, then it would only burn a 2 per turn instead of like a 4 or a 5, right?
Yeah,
so I think that's maybe what he's thinking. Try to make smaller bodies for the Kelly.
Great
Witch's
point.
Sabbath right now, if Big Cuckoo were to play Witch's Sabbath, he would get Cave Troll, Keltullus, and Beast back for himself, and bring back, I think, Seer, Sorceress, and Officer for Cyberz. So like two engines or 2 threats for Cyberz, and there it is.
Yeah, and you know what? The Seer's not so bad. The Seer's not bad at all, because you have the orbs. So the orbs can double tap on those as well. You could you can double tap the orb on the Seer and then back onto.
You could you could use the orb on the Seer, get the second one to buff up the Sorceress, and then click her for maybe a second Bountiful Harvest or another orb. It's very, very useful here. You can also find movement from the Sorceress now to move the Defender away, so that you have access to hit something behind it.
Oh, okay. So it was a 50-50 in terms of which Self-Eater was going to die, because if it killed the one that still that did not have the order, if the one with the order was preserved, he could have split that up in 2. And again, once again, just kind of just pump the brakes on what Keltullus is trying to do here. But in this case, I mean, you have another round of orbs if you want them. You could load the chamber with those bad boys and hit it up, you know, with the orbs onto the Seer. The Seer will duplicate it. You play that on the Sorceress. Sorceress goes up to 6, and that's Bountiful Harvest territory again.
Yeah, but unfortunately, like, even if he gets a Making a Bomb from the Sorceress, there's just no way to really answer either the Beast or the Kelly. as a follow-up. He only has 3 damage. Cyberz only has 3 damage from his leader. Okay, so he gets both 6 provision options on the Sorceress. Would he like? He takes the Bountiful Harvest. More carryover on Gourd. Doesn't find another Sorcerer's Chain, but...
No, but you kind of want those. Those are not bad.
Whisper can spread across the board and tank Kelly turns as well.
And it's not going to be too efficient for how Kuku wants to deal with that, if he wants to deal with that. I mean, at this point, I think that Big KK has to think about establishing a Witch's Apprentice here. I mean, it's just kind of rotting in the board. You do have the Sabbath now. Now's the time to get that done.
Yeah, that's true. Plenty of units on Cyber's side, so you don't worry too much about playing an extra unit if you're Big Kuku right now. And yeah, you just want to get the engines on the board. This is going to be rough. You need to try to keep last say as BIGKUKURUZINA if you can. So we might even see leader charges come down here. Let's see.
He's gaining...
Cyberz is going to be at 36. He has enough right now.
Yeah, he's gaining 8.
And the Kaltullus is burning. So if BIGKUKURUZINA is going to be able to keep keep his card advantage, he could draw into something like a Spores to counter this massively buffed Gourd at 9 power in the hand already, and probably boosting by 12 with all these. And oh my god, this Whisper going unanswered, and just it was 3. It was 3 a second ago. I blinked, and it's now 21.
Yes, we don't need to talk to you about what this is akin to. Nonetheless, friend, there's a Gourd buffed up to 9. I'm pretty sure that he's it's zenith of buff there, but yeah, it was off of that Bountiful Harvest, and the Bountiful Harvest then put that Whisper on the board, doubled them up, so now there were 2, and then that triggered the Orbs of Insight, which we saw from this turn had been duplicated by the Seer. So such a swing and chain of events, and TLG Cyberz here thinking that, okay, there was a small situation where perhaps I wanted to get out of this round, but with this kind of lead and this kind of cushion and protection and safety net I have now against Kaltullus burning away, I don't need to anymore.
Oh wow, look at this play by Big Kuku. Actually manages to get ahead with the Oniromancy into Caldwell play, because if he passes here, he's going to get another turn. At the end of his turn, gets double growth on his engines and the Kelly burns, so very well played by Big Kuku. Double leader charge was exactly what he needed to make sure he keeps his last say. So even after Cyberz is able to kind of mitigate a little bit of Kelly's impact, that was still a really good round for Big Kuku, but now he needs to find the Spores. I think he has to find the Spores in order to win here because of so much boost. 21-point Gourd with 18 points of boost is going to be played by Cyberz.
Gotta find some units. I mean, that needs to be on the board too. All right, okay, there's a unit. Now we're talking.
That is a unit.
It's an eggs meat basket situation, but at this point you do have a making a bomb to just render that relatively punchless. It's just going to be one unit that's just going to get it's going to get boosted and throttled over and over and over by bombs and abuse.
Yeah, that is a unit, but that is not a Spores. So, like, Big Kuku has very, very few points in his actual hand. This Nithral is going to get moved. This Piggy is never going to get Sabbath to grow. And then his other 3 specials are just playing for 6 points each. I don't know if he's even going to be able to match the power of the Gourd alone.
Oh, and this is great, because now this puts it in the perfect range for the death blow as well, because previous to this, it didn't quite work out. Having the Nithral at 1 would have just straight away killed it. You wouldn't have had the death blow effect, and in this case now Cyberz has the perfect target to just go ahead and complete the deal here. That last ping of Precision Strike brings it to 2. Broccolon Sentinel, call in your friends. The back row is a 3-pack and 1 more unit on the board, and oh boy, it's not looking good.
Yeah, it's definitely not looking good for BIGKUKURUZINA. Yeah, missing the spores hurts quite a lot, but even if he had spores in this exact situation, maybe not enough. As you can see, the Piggy at a mere 4 versus, there would have been, what, 9 base strength on Cyber's side of the board? But just has to find them. Okay, we're starting game number 2. It is going to be Cyberz with the Skellige list, which is a Reckless Flurry Alchemy against Nilfgaard Double Cross. So Big Kuku might have been expecting the Northern Realms, like we said, but Cyberz maybe switching it up a little bit, playing a little bit of mind games, bringing the less obvious Q in
That's
Alchemy.
True. Well, I think this might be a situation where Cyberz is like, okay, if I can sneak this through here, I could lose here. I'll have another shot at blue coin anyways. We're going to a game 4 at the minimum. I'll have another blue coin. Maybe that's when I bring my mage list. At the same time, this could be just a situation, like you said, bind games. If KK is suspecting mages, maybe he tries to sneak this one in and just kind of throw things out of whack a little bit. This is a list here where the problem with it is that there's going to be a lot of targets of opportunity in terms of being able to slam spying tags on some pretty important pieces, things like the little half-roos, and then perhaps late game on something like Fukusha. So you're bringing weapons to the party for sure, but you're also giving Big KK more options to beat you.
Yeah, that's true. So this version of Alchemy doesn't have the battle trance, so few less points, more control. Do you think this extra control from Flurry is going to play a big role in the matchup against Nilfgaard?
Well, against Nilfgaard, it's a little bit different because there are engines that you have to worry about, assimilate engines, but oftentimes when they're often presented with assimilate triggers kind of already happening at the same time. Cards like Brothans, cards like Arto Terra Nova, etc., these are going to get triggers as soon as they're deployed. So controlling these elements is not as clean and clear. It might be a situation where perhaps you get lucky with some coral pings, let's say, or some other random damage, for example, and you use the remaining elements of your leader charges to go ahead and clean up, but it's not the same kind of feel as you would against something like mages, where those threats are going to stay at like 4 health, so it's going to be easier to kill them. This is a different ball game here because a lot of these threats grow very quickly, and it's just the value of those 3 random pings are not as great as they would be against something like Northern Realms.
All right, so we've got On-Cry Warrior coming out of the Imperial Diplomacy. That's a nice little resurrection target for later. 3 damage when it gets resurrected from the graveyard. Maybe you play that with Fukusha. Cyberz played Maxi as his opening play, and we got to see his deck order for a second there. He has a Skirmisher on top of his deck, so we'll see that when he takes this Mask of Ouroboros, or takes the Scald, he does indeed draw a Skirmisher. So I'm thinking that maybe he felt the order was fine and just kept his deck order. Then it would mean he would have Mushy Truffle coming up, and then Darren and Dwim Viandra after that.
Yeah, great little pocket of cards there. You still have, again, the Mask of Ouroboros as well, that you can pair up with your Morkvarg, so you're not feeling too bad about that. And if you want to, you can even toss away the Crow Mother. I mean, that's perfectly fine to discard as well, given the fact that it's likely going to come back anyways, so you're losing the deploy effect of bringing out the 2 birds, but hey, who cares at this point? The most important part here is evaluating what the best discard targets are. There's the obvious ones, like the Skirmisher, like Morkvarg, but then there's some other fodder in there, like Crow Mother, or like the little Hafru.
Okay, BIGKUKURUZINA actually going to copy a Scout. I like this because he has a really weird hand, doesn't really want to play too much. Illusionist can't be played. No good copy targets on the board right now, or spying targets on the board right now for the Torturer. And very unlucky, uncharacteristic of Nilfgaard players, BIGKUKURUZINA not able to find either Blightmaker or Dead Man's Tongue in round 1.
Yeah, dangerous game you play. Proactivity on Nilfgaard, not what it used to be, let's say. In this case, Blightmaker is such a great card to play. Even on an empty board, yeah, you're losing out on the 2 points of damage, but the thinning and the tempo play is immense. No Dead Man's Tongue as well. You don't even have something like an emissary just to toss out there for a 7-point boost, right? So you're kind of sitting here wondering what else you could toss out there that makes sense. I feel like this is perfectly fine, perhaps to just clone with a Mage Torturer just to get that extra card out of the hand and maybe just pass the turn. But I mean, cards like Illusionist, those want to be, you know, you need something in the graveyard to connect with, and you're not going to roll the dice on Bribery when it does matter and you have no Assimilate targets on the board. So he might just throw away a Mage Torturer here. If he throws away the Mage Torturer, you can suspect that this is going to be a very short round. But if he commits something like Brothans, maybe then you're thinking that he wants to push the tempo in this round.
Yeah, I would guess that BIGKUKURUZINA is not going to fight for this round too much, and just use Blightmakers, hopefully draw into Blightmakers by round 2, and use those to defend any sort of push if there is. You know, normally, Assimilate versus Alchemy, I would say Alchemy has some advantages. Some versions can beat Assimilate in a long round 3, but that's usually with Battle Trance, with more synergy on the leader. And with Reckless Flurry, I don't know if it actually is favored in the long round 3. Nilfgaard does have a lot of power as well. So Cyberz does click the stratagem, draws into the Truffle. He actually played Crow Mother first.
He played Crow Mother first, and there was a situation perhaps where he might have been thinking, okay, maybe I want to hang on to this Morkvard for my Burnabrand. If I want to be bleeding round 2 a little bit, that's a big tempo play that I can hang on to. Perhaps tossing out the Crow Clan Preacher as a discard could have been a better option, perhaps to resurrect it later. But
yeah, I like how slowly you said Crow Clan Preacher, but at the same time, maybe putting a bronze unit into the graveyard would be bad for something like activating Illusionist or giving him a remedy target to steal away from you so that you can't resurrect the Crow Clan Preacher later.
Well, when you use Logic, Shinmiri, everything sounds bad.
No, I think it's a real consideration because, yeah, Morkvark is kind of carryover value for your Burnabrand as well. And this is a big overkill in round 1 for Cyberz, winning by 23 points. Some of those points maybe could have been saved, but I just wanted to point out like the potential downsides of the other option as well. So things that Cyberz might have been considering at the time.
Yeah, well, friendship over. That's all I'm saying. All right, we're going to go ahead and toss a few cards back. Burnabrand is also able to cycle some more things here. Decent amount of cards here. In terms of the bleed, you do not want this. I mean, I feel like whenever you win round 1 against Assimilate, the objective here is kind of to bleed until you get their leader ability out them. Put the pressure on it. We've seen it in so many other matchups where the defending player, the player in round 2 who's defending the bleed, when they're playing double cross, has an eventual crossroads that they have to make a decision. Do I use my ability now, or do I potentially get 2 out and I just get shut out of that ability? So we'll see how deep into this round Cyberz intends to go. But again, when left into round 3 with that leader ability, it can be devastating. So perhaps it's worthwhile to go down a card and just squeeze out that leader ability out of Big KK.
All right, I see the opening play by Cyberz is a resurrection of Freya's Blessing into a Little Hofru. Gets the Little Hofru out of his graveyard so that there will not be a potential for Kukuruzina to steal it. This is the first say advantage here, and I have a feeling that Cyberz is going to go really deep in this round, like you said, to put the pressure on, test Big Cuckoo's resolve in holding his leader, or potentially like, you know, holding his leader for carryover value or potentially risking getting 2-0'd. And another tell that signals that to me is Cyberz mulliganing away the Darren. If Cyberz was just going to play 2 cards and pass, Darren would be a good card to play here in the range row. Thin out something useless like maybe a Gutting Slash. Give himself more thinning to get to cards that were close to the bottom of his deck, like Fukusha or Coral or even the Dwim at the very bottom. But getting rid and mulliganing the Darren means that he's probably going to look for like a 2-0.
One thing that we no longer have to worry about when casting these Nilfgaard games is location into Viper Witcher Alchemist. That is no longer a thing, friends. Oh boy, could that have changed the dynamic of how some of these games will run. All right, first bonded ability there. There is the Crow Clan Preacher with another one in hand with the bonded ability. So if that survives, how fast does he just go ahead and... Oh, actually, is this a situation where he follows up with Gettyneth?
Gettyneth into potential clicking the truffle, immediately boosting these Crow Clan Preachers to 8 power. I don't know if it's necessary against this Nilfgaard list.
I don't think you're really afraid of it. Are you really that worried about one of these Crow Clan Preachers dying?
No, there's no damage. There's no tourney joust, there's no assassination, there's just invocation. So I guess you don't actually want them to be that tall. But yeah, you can start greeting. You could go getting it, then just start playing a bunch of Preachers.
Oh, definitely. You could really just run the table here in terms of removal. Okay, so this is, I believe this is Menno into the last tactic that's in the deck. That is Imperial Diplomacy, which is going to yield a wonderful card. I suspect it's the Priest here, but then again, if you do take the Fanatic may have been able to tank some of that random ping damage. But go for the safe bet. Why not? That's a ticking engine, 1 point a turn. Let's make it happen. And there it is, the Gettyneth. Like you said, without any fear of any removal, no tourney joust, no assassinations, nothing to worry about. Did he even use a Yen's Invocation? Was that, I don't think that's been used yet.
He has not used it yet. No, it's in the deck. And BIGKUKURUZINA is staring at a very scary situation here. He's got 2 remedies, and I think in the graveyard there's a Scald and a Skirmisher. So really only the Scald is useful for you. Right? So you've got like a kind of bricked remedy. You have a Terra Nova that's not great right now. Like, do you even consider maybe going for a really early leader to try to find a heat wave, a lucky heat wave? And there's an informant in there. Okay, so he actually does have 2 targets.
But that's a great point. If you're suspecting that there's a heat wave in that deck, you have to perhaps take the flyer on it. If you suspect that there's no way that you're going to get out of this, perhaps that's the best option for you. But then again, if you're playing scared like that, how are you going to win a round 3 perhaps? I mean, if Cyber's whole game here is to just push KUKURUZINA to the point where he has to use the leader ability, well, he's getting that job done pretty nicely. And look at how this is going to get exponentially nasty. He's not. I wonder if he's even going to click it. He doesn't even need to.
He doesn't need to. It is played in this round, so it will carry over to round 3 if he wants to save the carryover. But look at these Preachers. Okay, triple Preachers on the board, right? There's an Alchemy coming from the Truffle. There's an Alchemy coming from the Gettyneth. Another Alchemy coming from Dwim. And one more from Bride of the Sea. So at least 4 more Alchemy cards. That's another... Hold on. 6 times 4? That's another 24 points of engine value that these Preachers are still representing for the rest of the round. And who knows what Birna Brand is going to draw. Maybe she ends up getting you another Alchemy card, although I don't think you have anything to discard in your hand right now. BIGKUKURUZINA is going to like what he sees when he does eventually use his leader charge here, because it's probably going to be something like a Heatwave or that Morkvarg. Either way, you should have a clean answer to one of these tall units. The problem is, Shamir, is that it's not a 1-pack, it's not a 2-pack, it's a 3-pack of Crow Clan Preachers, and that can be really problematic when you're trying to deal with these scaling threats like that, because they're all bonded and there's 3 of them, so removing 1 does not necessarily do a whole lot for you. So you're gonna have to put some work into here. As it starts off with a Brothins into the Duchess Informant, we're gonna go ahead and clone one of the Duchess, one of the little half-roos, and start chipping away here. All right, puts the rain on the back row, killing both informants. But now the extra turn of rain is getting a little bit wasted, unfortunately. And we're going to see the Truffle order get used, and either a Bride of the Sea or a Dwimviandra here, most likely. Maybe Cyberz is going to start thinking about getting better cards out of his hand now, like the Bride of the Sea, so that the Double Cross has fewer options later.
I think he hit it spot on. There's the Bride of the Sea, bringing out the Golden Froth. Alchemy all over the place, double it up. Look at that massive lead that he's hanging on to. And again, BIGKUKURUZINA, even though he's going to be dipping into that that hand that Cyberz is hiding, he's going to like what he sees. He's either getting the Heat Wave or the Morkvarg or both. That is going to, you know, be a pretty big play, but he needs to catch up. There's almost a 40-point deficit here that he needs to shave down. And the worst part about it is that that priest on the back row that is dealing damage to the right and growing by 1 is eventually going to be probably answered by a Morkvarg or a Heat Wave, and that is nasty in itself, because that priest is essentially just robbing points from its neighbor and eventually gets nullified. So
yeah, this is what
yeah, he probably likes to see that card.
Yeah, I was gonna say the priest, as the way I say it, it's hitting flesh, Flake. It's not hitting armor. It's not hitting anything that's like you want to actually get hit. It's actually taking points off your board, and all of those points are going to get reset here. Cyberz has 2 tall punishes, one with the Morkvarg, Heart of Terror, and one with the Heat Wave. So both the Joachim target and the priest are kind of going bye-bye, and just this is looking very, very scary for BIGKUKU.
Well, the Heat Wave's still intact. You got the Morkvarg as well. I feel like he's going to wait as long as possible before he takes out that priest. That priest over there, again, like you mentioned, hitting flesh, so it's stealing some points from its neighbors, and it's eventually going to get just, you know, deleted and erased in its own right. I think this might be. Is this where a Dwimvandra here is a decent play? But perhaps there's a situation where you play the Burna, because if you Burna into 2 good cards, you don't want to have to toss away 2 good cards, so maybe the Dwimvandra. But then again, Dwimvandra is
a great card.
It's 4 plus 6 plus an additional 6, so that is probably better than anything else that you're going to pick up out of the deck.
You're exactly right. That's a 16 for 5 right there, and that's why Mushy Truffle and Dwimvandra are so good in this alchemy archetype. That's 16 for 5 because it plays you an extra alchemy card, and you know, with the Maxi showing Cyberz's deck order earlier, you can be kind of confident what he's drawing into. I believe it is going to be a little Hofru and a Gutting Slash, but it could also be that Peller or that Darren that he mulliganed at the start of this round. So whatever it's going to be, it's probably going to be bad cards. BIGKUKU now getting nervous. Going to use the double cross leader ability. Sees a couple of good options. Heatwave and Morkvarg both great for resetting or just deleting one of these creatures.
Well, if you suspect no more alchemy, Morkvarg's the better play here. It's worth more points than the Heatwave.
Yeah.
However, if you suspect that there's going to be a couple more alchemy plays, then the Heatwave would have been probably a little bit better.
Well, the double cross tells you all the information you need. You see that there are no more alchemies in Cyberz's hand, so gets the double cross and then. And the bribery. Whoa, I was like, wait, why am I seeing double? That's a bribery, wasn't it?
That was indeed a bribery, and the bribery rolled into a beautiful option here, double tapping on those Morkvargs. There's so many so many Morkvargs at this point, and 2 turns, 3 Morkvargs. Best option you could possibly have over there, as Cyberz just turned the tables here, going right back to work. Another healthy lead here. And but as you can see, I mean, that just big swing of leader ability and the bribery yielding very, very tall punishing threats here in the double Morkvarg. Very important how this went.
Yeah, and the gap is closing quite a bit. BIGKUKU now, BIGKUKU now going to put spying on the Morkvarg, getting potentially a 3rd Morkvarg. And we were talking about how big of a threat these creatures were. They're all getting reset. All of them. 2 Morkvargs already. Terra Nova now potentially a 3rd Morkvarg. Like, these creatures basically have done nothing. If that's going to be what BIGKUKU decides to do.
And what you can do here is you don't even need to use your Arto. You can use your Coup de Grace onto the Morkvarg to spawn a fresh Morkvarg. But I think that he just wants to close the gap in as short order as possible. Maybe keep the Coup de Grace for the Joaquin in the back row. But take a look at that again. Now we're cooking with gas here, because it's an 8-point deficit, which was something like 30 or 40 points just a blink ago.
Yeah. So is the remedy going to be enough? Remedy gets you. I think it's going to be enough.
just coup de grace.
Oh yeah, you could also coup de grace because it's only the first wheel of coup de grace. So coup de grace has a downside is that it clogs you a little bit. It gives you another copy of itself on top of your deck, so you're essentially drawing one fewer card. And there are quite a lot of good cards left in Big Kuku's deck, right? There's, I think, second Blightmaker. There's Lydia. There's a Arturius Vigo. So I think maybe the remedy was fine, but maybe he wants to preserve the remedy for an actual play for round 3.
Possible. I mean, you can go ahead and steal something out of the pocket there. But yeah, there was an option there where a coup de grace onto the Morkvarg would have had, I think, 5 Morkvargs on the board, which would have been pretty sweet. Okay, well, there's the first wheel. Bernabrand just tossing some garbage away. And that's a big pickup. That's not bad. That's at least one thing that you can throw away. Fukusha is a key element to how this goes. And looking at Big KK's hand, there's the Dead Man's Tongue. It's a little too late for that to be helpful, but at least it's a fairly big tempo play. And knowing that the Heat Wave is gone and the Morkvarg is gone, you could go real tall and pretty with that card and not necessarily have to worry about it too much.
Yeah, exactly. But Dead Man's... Oh, no. Disaster for Big Kuku. Mulligan's a DMT trying to find something like a Lydia, I think, but gets that brick, that 4-point brick in his hand, the Mage Assassin instead. And he really... I mean, I think it was the right mulligan to make because you are in a... I think you're in a pretty desperate position. You are... in round 3 with even cards, but you have no leader ability, and Cyberz still has 9 points from his Reckless Flurry leader ability, potentially being able to remove Bonded from your board and stuff like that.
Yeah, or you can just drop Fukusha and just ruin that back row right straight away. That's also a possibility. You could drop Rain and use your leader ability. All right, we'll just say goodbye. Not even worried. Not even a little bit. As it stands now, both players are just kind of holding on to all hope here. There's the last little bit of presence that Big KK had on the side of the board. A Fukusha, a Bernabrand, some removal, and a discard target left for Cyberz here.
You know something? I'm gonna speak to my analyst partner on the stream right here. I have a question for Speci. I wonder if Big Kuku could have gotten out of round 2 by playing Coup and Remedy instead of the Terra Nova, because that might have been a lot better outcome for him to have a Terra. The Coup is kind of bad in round 3 because you might brick it, you might not have a target for it, but the Terra Nova on the other hand is great because not only is the Assimilate engine, it's also much more flexible, can get you a Morkvarg if you want to, but also can get you like a Hawkthrow for proactive points.
I mean, if you're taking notes here and you're Big KK, you're evaluating, you're saying, I haven't seen Coral, Fukusha, or Bernabrand yet. So there's still a lot of jam left that I have to navigate. And if I want to win this, I should, if I intend on using my leader ability, my last bastion of hope is frankly that Artaud into some pretty significant pieces. And as you see right now, not having Artaud to develop multiple threats on the board at once is looking pretty yucky, and this Vigo is not all that pretty either. I think it's just going to probably just be an emissary here in order... Oh no, we're going for the Blightmaker.
Yeah, I mean, he needs bodies on the board right now for his Mushy Truffle order, so the Blightmaker play kind of makes sense. And then you've got a Remedy. It's not going to be it. Cyberz is going to be taking the lead 2-0 over BIGKUKURUZINA in this series. And BIGKUKURUZINA is going to have to reverse sweep Nilfgaard? No, Northern Realms.
Oh, yeah. Tall task to say the least here. Cyberz, we're talking about Cyberz trying to sneak in, right, with on blue coin with this list, whereas perhaps Big KK was anticipating Northern Realms in this case. That was not how it went. Cyberz threw him the old change up and comes through with a Skellige list instead, and that bleed in round 2 was great. And BIGKUKURUZINA probably thinking back, like you mentioned, something that you and Speci can dive into in the analytics portion of the post-game show, but frankly, when it comes down to it, it might have been a situation where Artaud was way too valuable to give up. Even if you go down a card or something, perhaps that using your Remedy and the coup de grace, like you mentioned, was just going to be enough, as Cyberz has, leader charges to spare even as 2. So
Yeah.
if you could replicate that, and as it stands right now, that's not the case. He's opting in this case to go with that monsterless Keltulis. And how do you feel about this one?
All right, Keltulis versus Alumni. It's really all going to come down to how big those melee row damage Alumni can grow to. If they get past a certain point, then your Alumni are just slamming down and answering a Nithral, answering a Defender. Sometimes you even see like 11 damage Banard students just straight up killing a Defender at 7+4 armor and then killing the Keltulis. So that's really the big key here. Can you deny enough Banard students to stop the damage from killing all your threats?
You gotta win this first round here. Figure out how this goes. Again, you want to make sure that your opponent cannot damage your side. But then again, if you do have a lot of those mages that just boost up things, maybe Count Caldwell will eventually stay to the same side. You know, it's just completely possible.
Yeah, that last mulligan was a key one for BIGKUKURUZINA. It drew into the Keltulis, which means now his Ihuarahua is going to pull out Siri Dash, and then he can like also Oniromancy for Cave Troll.
So what is it pulling from Cyberz deck is the question.
Let's see. From Cyberz deck, he will pull a Gerhardt, which he has in hand, and then Baron, Shawnee, Adalia. So Baron, it looks like it's going to be Baron.
And that's a tough one, actually, because Baron is an order ability, not a deploy, right? So
you would have been you would have been much happier to pull something like an Adalia.
Adalia would have been majorly ideal. That's the best thing that you could pick up here. I mean, maybe a Shawnee in round 1 when there's nothing in the graveyard, so you don't have to worry about it. But Adalia would have been a fantastic pull, and in this case, I guess it's going to be picking up. It's going to be picking up that Baron, and that's not a pretty one to pull here. BIGKUKURUZINA setting up the Defender again. We've seen this before. Keltulis needs a little bit of insulation. That Cave Troll's going to be playing bodyguard. Adalia is going to pair up with the Banard student. Now you got some protected threat. But the Dimeridium Bomb is not going to be able to punch through that because of that shield.
Yeah, and not only that, this is a crucial turn for BIGKUKU. He has to play the Siri Dash now via the Ihuarahua if he wants to threaten the Siri Dash to activate early enough to get that coin flip advantage and not allow Cyberz a pass. Maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he thinks Cyberz will never pass, but it's a turn where he's not really able to really answer a student anyways if he wants to play the Siri Dash in time.
So there it comes. Okay. Again, like you mentioned, you want to get that card out right now. The Baron was the guarantee pull out of that, but that gives information to KUKURUZINA now. So you know that the Gerhardt's in hand. You know that the Shawnee's likely in hand as well. The Rafard, I believe, is in hand. Is Baron's a provision?
A 10 provision.
10 provision. Okay. All right, 10 provision. So you at this rate, so there's the Rafard's Vengeance. That's going to come through. You're going to go ahead and drop a little bit of that zeal, that little hocus pocus on it to get it activated right away. And like you mentioned, the importance of the damage mages, and there they are in full force. So those are the key mages in this matchup, being able to damage some of those threats, like perhaps the recurring Defender, damaging the perhaps the Nithral, etc. You need to be able to mitigate your opponent's threats as much as you want to support your own with boost. The damage, I feel, like you've mentioned, Shinmiri, is probably the route you want to really dig into.
Yeah, I'm thinking for BIGKUKU, what if he just slams a Kelly here? Slams a Kelly, burns the Adalia, and then next turn potentially can burn a student? Because how else are you going to answer this melee row student that's shielded? I guess you can Phantom to get rid of the shield, but you've only got one D-bomb.
Yeah, it's an option. It's an option. The good news here is that the fact that the Rafard's random damage hit the Cave Troll armor means that you could go ahead and drop that Witch's Apprentice right now with Sabbath. That 2 damage connected with any body, you wouldn't have had that Sabbath online.
Yeah, that's true. So a little bit of a break for BIGKUKU, gets the Piggy going early. And Cyberz now, like, we're looking at what? Patience 3 and Patience 2 right now for his students, I believe.
1, 2.
So still, yeah, he's played 3 cards. So Patience 3 and Patience 2, still early right now, but if BIGKUKURUZINA does decide to take a pass, Cyberz could consider even just playing down to 4 cards and just developing Patience in this round unobstructed, unopposed, and maybe even call out that Letitia with the Amphibious Assault to build up even more damage Patience.
I like that. I still also like playing Keltulis. Just commit to this round. You know, there is a downside, yeah.
The downside of going for Letitia on Amphibious Assault is that there's no range row. There's no Aretuza student developing here, so you're not getting Zeal on your student or on your alumni, even though you are building up a lot of damage.
Rafard's Vengeance again hit the armor. I just noticed. So four potential damage that just went unchecked. Selkirk's gonna clean up that defender now, so now you have access to a lot of these threats. But there's no way.
Oh, look at this play! Wow. Okay, Selkirk clearing up the defender. Baron to reset the boost. A big smile on Cyberz's face. Baron to reset the boost of the Siri dash, and then using 2 weak students at 3 and 2 patience to kill the remaining 5 base strength. And this is massive because now it's a 20-point lead for Cyberz on even.
That is massive. And keep in mind here, if that Cave Troll still had armor, I don't know if the Selkirk could have been able to bust through. So the Rafard being able to peel away that armor made this play possible.
Selkirk still would have been able to bust through, but it would have taken a little bit more damage, yeah. But this is the huge thing
that worked out. I mean, look how cleanly that worked out. Baron, Baron, first of all, the Selkirk killing the defender, Baron resetting the Siri that was just about to pop off, and then 2 mages combining their efforts in a group project to toss that Witcher out into the toilet.
It was huge because the Baron, Cyberz didn't even have the Baron in hand. That was pulled by the Huarahua, so it's like really helpful play there. And now Cyberz gets to casting contest, the big student, and he's got damage 4 on a shielded 9 strength student that's going nowhere.
Still no Aretuza students, like you mentioned. So Zeal off of those alumni is a concern here for Cyberz, especially since he's already used 2 leader charges. So you're only going to be able to drop Zeal on one more thing, and you have to pick and choose what that's going to be. But the fact that this Aretuza student now, this Banart student right now is just collecting damage is going to be clutch here. Very, very important. But Big KK has the Witch's Apprentice and the Phantom ticking away, 3 points a turn, plus Keltulis looming there on the front row, going unopposed, just scorching every single little unit that decides to make an appearance.
Yeah, and the Keltulis is likely going to carry the round for Big Kuku. It's just a matter of how much patience is Cyberz going to be able to accrue before this, Kuku forces him out of the round.
All right, at this rate, what do we got going on here? I mean, there's still 3 points of engine value ticking away. The charge on the Phantom still online should you need it. But now we got a 50-50 coming in terms of what Keltulis is going to burn next. Is it Rafard's Vengeance, or is it that Aretuza student? You can always go ahead and use your practice makes perfect, I believe, to go pull something out. Maybe it's an Aretuza student. Maybe it's the same mage. Yeah, or it could be an alumni as well.
Yeah, so a lot of randomness there. I don't know if Cyberz is willing to take that option. Might just use the first roll of Oniromancy instead for a guaranteed Aretuza student, or even like a Citizen Envoy to make his top decks better.
Yeah, we're going to get the Amphibious Assault here, and I like this play because it's basically going to protect the Rafards. You're going to be sacrificing that the Banart student at 4, but that one did its duty already. It was part of that master plan to take out the Siri dash and deny the card draw from Big KK, and now you have a Rafard's Vengeance that's beefed up. It also got the crew ability of the extra damage. You still have that Banart student in the front row collecting patience, and now you have a healthy lead on your opponent on even. But again, Keltulis is a nasty biatch. I will say that. That is as truthful as I can get, because it's not just a matter of point totals. You got to think about what she's going to be pulling off the board every single time.
Yeah, and BIGKUKU has a lot of points passively here. He's going to use the D-bomb to try to 50-50 into the Refards, but doesn't hit it. Gets the student instead. And the Refards is going to actually be able to activate once again, playing the Marine from hand, drawing Chapter of Wizards.
Wow.
Massive. Everything's looking great for Cyberz here. And now another smaller unit on the board with that 3-point Marine for Keltulis fodder.
I like the buff here of the Bloody Baron. You're not going to get a second charge out of that Refards, so let's keep these 2 units low to the ground. There's no point in buffing it up, having a 3, and then the next thing that Keltulis burns down is going to be like an 8 or something. So in this case, I think it's perfectly fine. And there's another low to the ground unit, the Mage, the one all the way on the left-hand side, whose name escapes me.
Art Tutor.
Yeah, the Tutor. I believe that just buffs another Mage. Plus, it's a 2-point unit on the ground that is good Keltulis fodder. But hey, why don't we just go ahead and get a Centurion Spellweaver and start, again, pushing the tempo here?
Yeah, Centurion Spellweaver maybe gives him some options on, like, Shawnee, or, I don't know. I actually personally like the Mage, the Banner Tutor as well, because it's such a small body. But... let's see, how much reach does BIGKUKU have here? He's getting 3 points a turn passively, and the Kelly is burning a 3 and then a 4. So that's 7 plus 6, 13 points. He is ahead if he wants to. Okay, gonna use the Phantom now to clear up the 3 so that he burns an engine that's actually online, that's actually doing something, gets the Spellweaver, catches a little bit of a break there, I'd say.
I would also say... he's going to be ahead here at the end of this particular turn, if necessary. Cyberz is evaluating. There's no real practice. Makes perfect is not connecting with anything other than that 9-point Mage in the front row, and you do not want to get rid of that. That thing's been putting in work. So okay. Shawnee, it is 2 bodies. Again, if you can multiply the bodies that are on the board, that does help out with the Keltulis factor. What a play! I like that.
What? These combos are off the hook. The big student was patience 6. The small student was patience 2. Committing a Shawnee to win this round on even by combining those 2 damages to kill the Keltulis. The Keltulis actually got pinged repeatedly by the Refards Vengeance too. So that's what helped soften it up. And now Cyberz is in a dominating position with not only winning on even, but also a very well-developed Banard Patience.
Yeah, the Banard Patience is great. The Aretuzas have been slacking. But it's okay. It's okay. That's actually good for Kukuruzina, because if there's a lot of boost available on Cyberz side of the board, you could say goodbye. Like you mentioned, follow the money. Count Caldwell is essentially your prototypical New York Yankees player. Just get the biggest contract possible and play for that team. So in this case, Caldwell needs something to connect to. And the most recent revision of Caldwell is that he does not count himself. So you need to beef up some other portion of the board in order to make that happen. And Big KK here losing on even, and now needs to protect against this bleed. It's not looking good, because what are you resurrecting out of your opponent's graveyard? Are you giving them a Baron and a Refards?
Yeah, sounds like Baron, Shawnee, Refards. This all sounds terrible. The high strength targets for Northern Realms are really, really good, because they're all orders, and a lot of them also have Zeal. Let's take a look at the graveyard, shall we? Yeah, 6 strength Baron. It could be a Selkirk. Oh, imagine resurrecting your, Defender and Kelly in the melee row. Also gets them a Selkirk potentially. So it's going to be 2 out of the 3: Selkirk, Refards, Shawnee. But whatever Cyberz gets from his graveyard on the Wish of Sabbath, they're all going to be very good.
A little remnant of shield, just to remind you that at one point there was a very powerful mage that existed in that spot, and it is still haunting KK here, but he's doing the right thing here by beefing up that one Nithral. That one Nithral will eventually put some power down. Okay, so here's the Alumni. Now we look at the Alumni stats: 6 damage, but only 1 boost. So when you're not feeling that strong, well, you're not going to get Zeal, so Nithral is going to pair up with that Parasite and get rid of 1 of the Alumni so far.
Yeah, that's not too bad for Big Cuckoo. And being able to answer these alumni with no zeal. Cyberz have already utilized all of his leader charges in round 1 to secure that win on even. So these alumni are really going to want to have zeal in order to be effective later. Big Cuckoo, I think what Big Cuckoo could do, you know, we talked about how much downside there is to use the Witch's Sabbath right now. Because there's so many order units available for Cyberz. If Cyberz keeps pushing in this round, BIGKUKURUZINA has a last say. Just, you know, even though he lost on even, he has single last say right now. So he could consider using Witch's Sabbath as his last say if Cyberz goes the distance in this round. And that way, Kelly still gets a burn, your Beast still grows, and but Cyberz doesn't get a chance to use his Baron, use his Shawnee, use his Selkirk.
Or you can just, I mean, you could drop lemons here and start peeling away those nasty cards that Witch's Sabbath was going to take out, right? So he might have gone in there and said goodbye to something like Selkirk, said goodbye to Shawnee, got rid of those cards that would have really made that Witch's Sabbath difficult to digest. Now, what Big KK can do here, if he wants, I believe, is, ooh, that could be dangerous. Because the
Caldwell is looking really dangerous.
Yeah, very dangerous.
The first banish was on Shawnee.
Yes, that's
like
a good
you said,
banish.
Lemons banished Shawnee, and then now are you banishing Selkirk or Rafards or Baron? One of those
Baron
three?
Could be good. If you're opting to use your Sabbath now, you don't want Baron to reset your Nithral. So that's probably an option here.
Okay, he banished Rafards as the second banish. So Shawnee and Rafards both gone. You're getting Baron, Selkirk, and a 4, I think. A random 4
is going to
here.
have patience, won't it?
Yeah, it depends on which 4 you get, because there's a lot of 4s in there. All right, Caldwell coming down.
Dangerous game to play.
So dangerous. Your tallest unit is a 14. And, you know, Gerhardt can boost by 6. The patience, one of the students is at a 10. The other one is at a 5 with patience like 4? 3? Can somebody check for us, please, what the patience of the Aretusa students are at right now? How much boost the Cyberz has available? He is going all in.
I mean,
So
go for it.
3 on the left and 4 on the right. So he can get this 10 strength student to 20? 4 boost there, and then a 6 on the pack. He can get it to 20, which means that it's going to be extremely difficult. Oh, he's not going for it. He's going to go for practice makes perfect. And that gets him an alumni, which is also going to be Zeal.
Zeal. Oh, filthy. I mean, point-wise, that was probably better. But in terms of guaranteeing that the Caldwell doesn't switch sides,
I don't like this. I don't like this. He could get... Big Cuckoo could get something like Phantom back, but I don't know if there's going to be enough points. Like a Phantom back could help combine with the... Oh, he doesn't get the Phantom. If he had the Phantom, he could have used the 3 damage Zeal on the Phantom to prevent the Caldwell from coming over, and Cyberz is your winner. 3-0 in the finals over Big Cuckoo.